I'm Nnamdi Odipo and we're live in Abuja. This is the Ballot. Very good evening to you out there, and many thanks for joining us tonight. I hope the evening has been agreeable with you, and I hope that we would make that a lot better here on the Ballot. Well, Rivers State is in focus tonight. Rivers, where an epic contest looms as several big names, typically considered giants, political giants in their own right, slug it out to clinch the governorship of the oil-rich states. I have one of the big names joining me tonight on the Ballot. He is the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, and we will be speaking with him shortly about his party's chances at the polls, his development's blueprints, and why Rivers State continues to get caught in the eye of the storm. But let's kick things off tonight with our major news highlights.
We have agreed on a growth strategy for a hitch-free election.
Think twice and think hard before contemplating any notion to disrupt the polls. NSA retrials activists.
Let it be said clearly that no one Nigerian in this country is above everybody.
INEC assures voters in Benue State 27 orders of credible election. And more to come tonight. We will be speaking with the governorship candidate of the APC. Ahead of this weekend's election, the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security has warned those with plans to cause confusion or disrupt the process to think twice and heal the counsel of people with good conscience.
What we do not want to happen is for anybody to preempt and to take the law into his or her own hands.
It is therefore important for parties and candidates to speak to their agents and supporters to see the election as a contest and not war.
Reassuring and persuading skeptics as well as clearing doubts about the incoming governorship and state houses of assembly elections have become one of INEC's many preoccupations these days, especially as the polls draw closer, while flickers of the glitches from the February 25 presidential National Assembly elections are yet to fully dissipate. The Independent National Electoral Commission is doing this same work in Benue State, where it is assuring voters of a credible polls come Saturday.
We have jointly undertaken a review of the February 25 election with the electoral officers and the transport unions, and we have reached broad agreement on what went wrong and what we got right, on the basis of which we have agreed on a growth strategy for a hitch-free election come Saturday.
Meanwhile, here in Abuja, a group known as the Natives is drumming up support for the outcome of the February 25 presidential election that produced APC's Ballot as president-elect. The social, cultural, political group is advocating a peaceful post-election atmosphere to engender national stability.
So the sole purpose of this solidarity is to thank President Muhammadu Buhari.
That's so.
Yes, so. Let it be said clearly that no one Nigerian in this country is above everybody.
That's so.
So. We, the voters, voted Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Now into the business of the night, and I don't know if you know this, but sometime last October and even more recently, some recent polls, public polls I should say, suggest a close race between the PDP and the APC in Rivers State. I don't know how scientific these polls are or the margin of error, but good enough, we will be getting a sense of how prepared the APC is for the coming governorship election, and if adequately so. My guest is the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, Tonye Patrick Cole, and he joins me from Port Harcourt this lovely night. Thank you so much for joining us on the ballot tonight. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Nandi. Can you hear me?
You hear me as well?
Loud and clear.
Wonderful. So, speaking of rejigging governance in Rivers State, you seem to be pushing strong on increased investment in infrastructure, amongst other things, of course. I'm sure you have plans for building a stronger economy in Rivers State and ensuring improved security as well as capacity development. That's when you target young persons, young adults, and some other persons. But these are all good and well. But I need you to tell me how some of your plans meet three core imperatives for sustainable development. One is how they satisfy human needs. Two, tell me how social justice will thrive. And three, and finally, will your plans respect environmental limits?
First, in the build-up to your question, you already touched some of the cardinal issues that must drive development in Rivers State. And let's start from the fact that almost every business of repute left this state as a result of insecurity, as a result of lawlessness, as a result of the fact that there was no respect to law and order. And so you had businesses fleeing. Now, when you have an economy that has very strong businesses leaving the state, what that leads to is the inequality that you see in terms of the poverty rate that has increased. So when you are now talking about how on the SDGs, how it impacts the people, you begin to see that where people don't have hope and where they don't have an opportunity to get a job, then you create a social problem that we see today. And so we must drive that. We must address it. Equality, poverty, lack of opportunities are things that we are driving as a party, and I'm driving individually here as a person running for governor.
Because I would like for us to have a very robust conversation. I have had the opportunity to look at your blueprint. It seems somewhat esoteric, I should say, but I mean, of course, it's you would help us make sense of it. What in your plan, in your blueprint, addresses issues like investment in nutrition, healthcare? And I know like I said, I did read about it. You paid particular attention to the issue of quality education, but I'm more interested in how your approaches vary or different from past approaches, and how uniquely placed they are to envisage or engender sustainable improvement in these target areas.
Excellent. And I'm glad that you touched on education, because education is a big thing. But when you look at education and you take it over the years, you find out that if we are going to follow the standard form of improving education in a classroom, then through the life of this administration and many administrations to come, you will not be able to close the gap. The reason being that education in itself has been so abused within the state. And when you go outside of the metropolis into the riverine communities and further afield, education has been totally bastardized. Now, if we are going to close that gap, we have to close it in a different way. And the best way of closing the gap today is to use technology in such a way that you're bringing the classrooms into the homes and not taking the children out of their communities into classrooms. Technology helps you bridge this gap. We must be able to use the advances in teaching, technical aids in teaching, technical aids with computers to bring our children education where they are. We have to close that gap. So we must do things very, very differently. Another way of bridging the gap, again using things like general Wi-Fi, just coverage. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that the state is covered completely with fiber optics that allows people to that allows technology to get to them wherever they are. So education must work hand in hand with technology for it to advance.
It's about investments in nutrition and healthcare. I don't know if you got that. I said I would also like for you to speak to the issue of investments in nutrition and healthcare.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so nutrition. Agriculture is one of the largest, should be one of the largest employers of labor here in Rivers State. But you find that because of the type of agriculture that we have, and because people are not tying the benefits of the agriculture to nutrition, to even addressing the food chain and addressing the economy where it comes to agriculture, you begin to see that we are losing a great opportunity in improving the lives of people, improving the value chain, and ensuring that nutrition and a balanced diet come together. So some of the things that we have determined that we must do is move agriculture from the basic agriculture that we have today into the area of where you can begin to process, where you can begin to export, where you can begin to address the needs of the people. It's one thing to produce food. It's another thing to make sure that the nutritious value of that food is translated into the lives of the people. And we must drive this. Agribusiness in its sense is a huge opportunity that has been left to rot within the state, and we have to address that.
Between investments in nutrition and general health care. I don't know. I did see parts of your plan, but please, I saw the end game in your blueprint, but I did not see the route that takes me to the end game. So I saw, how would I say it now? If I were going to Ojoelegba, I saw Ojoelegba bus stop, but I did not see where I would jump into the bus and the route to travel through. Can you just take me through the route that will take me to the bus stop, which is perhaps universal healthcare delivery in Rivers State?
Okay. So, first and foremost, addressing healthcare and ensuring that every citizen has access to healthcare is what that goal, what that destination is. To do so, you must be able to address the demand and supply end of it. The demand end of it means that people will always need healthcare. The supply end of it means that you must be able to provide the kind of infrastructure that allows that to happen. So you have to bring the two together. On the one end, you have a social need, which means that people who cannot afford healthcare should have access to healthcare. On the supply end, you must have a business that is health-driven. In other words, healthcare has to be provided for as a business. What will bridge that gap, which is what you're talking about, how you jump, where do you enter the bus? What will bridge that gap is what you call a social security or health insurance scheme. The state government has to very, very actively participate in a health insurance scheme that allows businesses and gives a framework for business in healthcare to come in, knowing that there is a population that will need healthcare, and yet not all can afford it. Without a very robust health insurance scheme at work, you will not be able to perform or provide the kind of healthcare that you need. For me as a state, one of the biggest, for me as a governor, one of the biggest things that the state can do is encourage the insurance sector to begin to invest heavily within the state, because you have the people, you have the opportunities, and you have the infrastructure that would allow this to thrive.
line, we are going to, I mean, you've raised a couple of targets for us. We've gleaned a couple of targets from what you've said. Down the line, we're going to rephrase some of these targets and give you a timeline to tick. But then, before then, you know, every time I hear politicians and analysts say all politics is local, and I agree. I think a politician's success is directly tied to that politician's ability to influence and understand the issues of his constituents. And I have a feeling you are grounded enough to realize that rather than big and tangible ideas, voters in Rivers State are likely to be more worried about simple, mundane, and everyday concerns, like what would they eat today? What water would they drink? Where would they lay their heads at night? If the place is safe, and if there is hope that they can get these same things the next day and the next day. How do you plan to meet these seemingly simple concerns and avoid the anatomy of failure by governments who do too much at the same time and end up doing nothing at all?
Interestingly, in this campaign of mine, one of the things that we did was actually go door to door a long time ago, from one ward to another, unit to unit, feeling and touching the people. You will not believe, Nandi, that one of the greatest joys or greatest surprises to me was that the people wanted to feel and touch. It's such a simple thing, but wanted to feel and touch those who they elect and those who intend to govern them. They want to feel a connection, that you are listening to them, you understand their needs, and you understand their pains. Now, what were the needs? The first need across board without fail, was that people needed a sense that they had access to cash. Now, why is this? Because for them, day-to-day living and everything that they did boiled down to the ability to buy or sell something on a daily basis. So, where poverty was weaponized, it meant that the ability to access money for day-to-day living was taken away, which told me straight away that if you do not create a system that allows liquidity to stay within the economy, then you will be punishing the poor people at the bottom of the pyramid. So that was the first thing that they needed. The second thing that I felt almost immediately in just meeting people on a day-to-day basis was that they wanted a sense of belonging. In other words, they wanted a sense of feeling that they were a part of the government, a government that listened and a government that cared for them. Why is this? In their discussion, they often felt that almost every government policy that was made had nothing to do with them. There were many places that are ungoverned. I went to ungoverned places within the state where there was no government presence, no hospital, no court, no police station, no magistrate court, nothing at all. And in such places, they already felt that nobody cared for them. So what do they want? They want the access. These are very little things, but the mere fact that there is accessibility to people who can represent them truly became a very focal point. So what did that lead me?
This is where communication. This is where communication is quite germane, and where experts will say communication is also a development, should be a critical component of the development process. Unfortunately, I need to hurry you along. I was going to ask you how worried you are about the ANAM polls that came out and placed you some percentages behind the APC candidates, and whether you think you have had enough time to canvass the electorate for votes, and whether or you spent more time in court, you know, than out of court. But I need to hurry you along to a segment that we call ticking the boxes here on the ballot. It's you're provided with a couple of options, you know, and asked to tick the boxes. There will be like 4 key targets, national target, with 3 options to choose from that aligns with your stance on the prospect of their accomplishment. These targets are all within a time frame of 4 years. It's simple, so do not worry, you'll see them soon. So ticking the boxes is up next.
Okay, thank you. I'll be waiting.
So great. I will just ask the director to put the boxes, to put it on the screen, and I'll see if you can see that. Is it up there? Okay, fantastic. It's already up there. There are 4 issues on the box there. The first item on the box is closed basic education deficit by 75%. I mean, it's an issue you've already spoken to in our conversation, but do you think there is a realistic goal that you can achieve within 4 years of your administration as governor, if and when given the opportunity to serve? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
I think it's realistic using the advent of technology, so that is realistic.
We'll go to the second item on the box, 80% public potable water supply. And this is statewide, not just in the Garden City or Port Harcourt. Do you think this is a target you can achieve in 4 years? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
80% is probably outside the border of realism. So if it was about 60%, 50%, it's possible. 80%, I think it's too much. 80% is unrealistic.
Curbing security by 70%. Is this an unrealistic goal as well? Are you undecided on the matter, or you think you can achieve that in River?
That's realistic. So that's realistic. So that's an economic issue. It's realistic.
But there, it says to create 40,000 new jobs at the end of 4 years. That translates to 10,000 new jobs per year.
That's very realistic.
Now, I'd like to thank you so much, governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC in Rivers State, Tonye Patrick Cole, for coming on the ballot tonight. On behalf of the NTA, I would like to wish you, and not just you, others as well in the contest, the very best of luck. I hope we'll see you after the elections, and we will talk about how the elections played out. Thank you so much for coming on the ballot.
Thank you, Nandi. It's been a pleasure.
For tonight, 3 more days to go, and election day would dawn upon us. I would see you again tomorrow night, God willing. My name is Nnamdi Odipo. Cheers.